Okay, the first topic area that we have tonight is on the town budget. We have a number of questions. Some of them are somewhat similar, so I'll try to combine them. The first one is, has the fund balance, the savings account for the town, decreased significantly in the last 3 years? We start this with the supervisor candidates. We began tonight with Bruno, so we'll start with Mary Ann. No, we should start with Mary Ann.
It's a confusing question. I think that was fund balance and savings, which are really two different things. Fund balance is cash on hand. We have accumulated over decades an enormous amount of cash on hand. It's something I started to address when I first became supervisor. We presented a plan in 2009 that was well publicized. There were many public meetings. There was newspaper coverage. There was local newspaper coverage on that, to set aside some of that cash on hand into special reserve savings accounts. And that actually, the reserves were the main plan at that time. And we have accomplished, we have started to accomplish that. We've established a reserve for future recreation facilities, which there'll be an open meeting Thursday night at Town Hall, where you can see that unveiled. The cash on hand has declined somewhat, partly as a result of the declining economy, and a little bit because, and substantially because of good planning and reserve funds.
Accounting is not complicated. The numbers have to add up. That's the one thing about bookkeeping. Everything has to add up. You take it out of here, you put it in there, it shows up. It's not complicated. In Friday, I went to the budget meeting, the special town board meeting that the town had. And at the end of it, Mary Ann gave me this document right here. And it lists the highway and general funds. And you got to understand there's an A fund and there's a DA fund, which is the A fund is the general fund, the DA fund is the highway fund, and then there's the B and the DB, which are outside funds for general and highway. And these totals, she gave me a sheet, her own numbers show in 2008 the total at the end of the year. Can I get 30 seconds?
Your partner on the party could finish the answer.
Maybe just to further along what Bruno was talking about, he's probably talking about maybe a disparity in the numbers there, but let me discuss what happened. Funds were used. They were used to pay in advance for development rights of a local farm in which New York State will pay us back in 2012. Funds were also used to loan the Tompkins County Health Consortium to help our new county insurance plan get on its feet, and that will be repaid back to the town in 2013. Also, an early payment was paid to the health benefits for the employees of the town of Dryden, and in doing so, the town receives credits or savings on each subsequent payment it makes towards the health benefits. So when you look at these costs that Bruno was talking about, or these expenditures, that is where it went, and we are getting positive. We are getting most of that money back, and it is benefiting the town as well.
I'm looking at the document that Bruno received. In 2008, the total fund balance is $8,426,241. The estimated fund balance for 2012 total is $1,255,528. Total fund balance. Now, I recognize that some money was moved around, and rightly so and appropriately so, but there's a use of these monies. And I don't care what you call it, more money is going out than is coming in. And sooner or later, the fund balance is going to end, and it has to come back to you, the taxpayers, unless we start doing something different now.
Just a couple more seconds. The
They didn't use a minute, so you have 12 seconds left. I was going to use it. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I think that's the rules.
that money was spent to a large extent. There were a few items that were not spent, like Joe referred to. We spent $688,000 to buy from farmland development rights. We might get it back from the state. I hope we will.
Thanks. Okay, we have a couple of questions that relate to this. I'll try to combine them. It's a somewhat complex topic, so I'll use that time to extend the answers to 90 seconds. So we add a little bit more time to do that for this round. So if we could change the clock to to reflect that. The question that I'm going to combine is, but isn't there deficit spending going on in the town's budget? If you say no, how do you explain the drop in in town reserves taken together over the last 3 years?
I'm sorry. How do you take? Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry. I just.
Isn't there deficit spending going on? If you say no, how do you explain the drop in town reserves taken together, taken on over the last 3 years?
And I got a minute and a half. The answer is yes, there have been deficit spending. You can call it overspending. You can call it we're bringing in less than we're paying out. But basically, the difference between 8.4 and 1.2, which is being proposed, it hasn't happened yet, proposed for 2012, the difference is $7.2 million. And I can tell you that's what's happened. And they talk about the money's been moved to reserves. Yes, money has been dedicated to reserves. $500,000 was moved from the A fund, and it was moved to the DA fund for highway reserve. It was moved from one fund to another. It's still in there. It's still part of that total. $234,000, I believe, was put into a rec fund. It was in the A fund. It's still in the A fund, and it simply has a tag on it which says reserved for rec funds. The point is, this is a problem and has to be stopped. I mean, we haven't built a single park, we haven't built a single mile of trail, and we've spent potentially by the end of 2008, we'll have spent $7.2 million from our savings.
This is one of the things that drives me most crazy about this discussion. You're looking at 3 years of experience and 2 years of forecasts. Let me tell you how that works. In the past 3 years, like every year, we budget very carefully. What if fuel and asphalt costs go up? What if sales tax plummets and so forth? And it turns out that and we appropriate a certain amount of savings in case all those things go against us. Never happens. In 2008, we appropriated $1.3 million to keep the tax rate the same, and we only used $200,000 of it. Let me say that again. And this was 2008. We appropriated $1.3 million just in case, and we used $200,000. In 2009, this is a much more typical year. We appropriated 1.8 of savings in case everything went wrong, and we not only didn't spend any of that, we returned $300,000 to the fund balance, more than we had spent from the year before. In 2010, this was an unusual year, what with the economy dropping and so forth. We appropriated $2.3 million, and we actually only used $900,000. So do not try to compare reality with forecasts. We always forecast for the worst case scenario, and it never happens.
We have consistently asked for information about the budget. We've consistently looked for information about the budget. Before I started doing human resources, I did cash management. I dealt with a $12 million loan balance for a manufacturing company. I know about deficit spending. You can't keep taking it out. They keep saying that the fund balance hasn't gone down. I can't see anything that tells me that there's money, that there's $8 million in that fund balance. We've asked time and time again for the information. We're not getting it. So if the money's there, then show us something that tells us the money's there.
Let me see here. Deficit spending, to quote, is the amount by which a government, private company, or individual spending exceeds income over a particular period of time, also simply called deficit. If that were the case, the town of Dryden would not be in the black. They would be in the red. Like Marianne said, we budget conservatively, we spend frugally. Some of the money that we have accrued and in times like last year, we need to spend that money. That is your money, and we're spending it for the town of Dryden. It's not like we're spending it and giving it away to anybody who comes. The community center grants developed by Dave Makar, we spend money on them every year. This facility receives money from the town of Dryden. The Etna Community Center receives money from the town of Dryden, and so does Ellis Hollow. That did not exist years ago, a few years ago. It is this type of spending, if you want to call it spending, investment that we have in our community. It is your money, and we are reinvesting it in our community.
I would like to add that I think this is a red herring that was introduced at the last moment so that we could have confusion without closure. And I think the red herring and all those signs saying vote to stop deficit spending are because they know that the people of Dryden don't want fracking. And so we've got our keep the ban signs, and now they have their stop the deficit signs. But there is a ban, there is no deficit.
Okay, on a slightly different question, and this has to do with the tax caps that have been imposed upon local governments. The question is somewhat simple, but it probably requires a bit more of an answer. So let's do 60 seconds on this. Will you pledge not to break the tax cap?
Is it us? That's you, Marianne. If we knew precisely what the tax cap, tax cap will be, we'd have a much better chance of pledging that. I've followed all the complex and sometimes often conflicting guidelines to calculate what we think the tax cap is. It's very similar to the way we normally do budgeting. It's based on 2% for cost of living and a certain percentage of the new development in town. We've always done this. This is not new. We would happily pledge not to exceed that if in fact it was clear what that number is going to be. The budget on the table now is substantially below what we believe the tax cap will be, and we're introducing it. Did we introduce that resolution to authorize exceeding? I can't remember where we are with that. But in case the state doesn't, in case the state clarifies the tax cap in ways that we don't know about yet, we need to have that in place. But the budget on the table is substantially below what the state has guided me to calculate.
I support the tax cap. I won't break the tax cap. Expenditures in 2010 were $6,024,000. Our income was $4,123,000. That difference was taken from savings. There has been an increase of 41.2% in spending in the last, I believe, 3 years. Revenues have flatlined, if anything, have gone down. The town has a fiduciary responsibility. These people sitting here, and the ones that aren't here have a fiduciary responsibility. That is their highest, the biggest part of their job. And they're trying to tell me here, and I find this incredible, that they don't know that this is going on. What are we paying them to do?
Certainly, yeah. We pledge not to break the tax cap.
Okay. As Marion had stated, if we knew exactly how to calculate the tax cap, then we could come to a determination whether or not we would pledge to do so. Since that is not etched in stone and is more written in water, it is hard to make that pledge. But what I can tell you, though, is previous administrations have accrued the savings that the town enjoys currently. We have chosen to spend those savings to keep the taxpayers' rate down. It is your money. We're using it for your benefit. So I guess I don't see what more use you could do than to give it back to you, the residents of Dryden. Thank you. Oh.
I pledge not to break the tax cap if I'm elected. Straightforward answer. If I get a 2% increase at work, I can't spend 3%. It doesn't matter how I look the books. It doesn't matter what I think I might have coming in or what I think I might have in going out. I have to adjust my budget to manage within my means. That's what deficit spending is. When you spend more than you have to build the budget to spend what you know you have coming. If you don't know you have it coming, you shouldn't be budgeting for it.
If you're wondering where I'm getting these figures, anybody can do it. Go down to the town hall, put in a FOIL for the AUD, which is the annual update document, and take a look for yourself. Add them up, look at it. It's all there in black and white. The numbers add up. The numbers go down year after year. This isn't rocket science.
Let me just do one follow-up question on this last question. Because all of us are town residents, I think probably many of us would like to know what our taxes might be in the coming budget year. Could you give us some idea of what the increase or decrease is in proposed town spending for 2012 and what that might be as an estimated increase in tax rate or a decrease in tax rate? That would be for Mary Ann.
The tax rate is exactly this. Well, the tax rate is, I can say it with or without the microphone. The tax rate is the same as it was in 2011.
In spending, what's the total spending change?
I'm sorry, I don't have the budget with me. Anybody else want to answer?
I can answer that. Total spending change, the proposed appropriation for 2012 is $6,554,481. $54,481. That's the proposed spending. The proposed removal from savings or unexpended fund balance, that was last year. $2,086,738. That's what's going on, folks. And the tax rate, the total tax levy for 2012, $1,248,123. So $1.2 million. And I don't know the tax rate. It doesn't have it here. I'm sorry. The tax rate, 1.44938. Last year, tax rate 1.431003.
Councilor candidates can respond to this too.
What's that?
Yeah.
No, just follow up with just 1 minute for each side.
Okay. Okay, this one follows up on that one. What plans, if any, would you have about raising taxes in the town in the coming years?
Here's the problem, folks. We're not bringing enough revenue. We have a proposed spending of $6.5 million. We bring in $1.2 million right now in from tax levy. The rest is from sales tax, fees, things like this. And recently from savings, that's where we've been bringing it from. To cover a deficit of $2.5 million would require a 300% tax increase. Again, just do the math. This is a huge problem. We have got to address it right now in the proposed 2012 budget. Spending has to be reduced. They've flatlined the budget, proposed budget that Marianne proposed basically increases about $6,000 over last year. But it has to be reduced going forward.
I think it's a safe bet that I know more about the budget and the finance reports than anybody here, probably anybody in town. I'm the CFO of the town. It's my personal responsibility. I am personally liable for managing the town's funds. Believe me, I do it carefully. I do it as carefully as I do it in my own life, where I have no debt, no mortgage, no car payment, no credit card debt. I pay my way, as does the town. Deficit spending could be a problem if you're borrowing to cover expenditures. As far as I know, we've never done this. Well, I shouldn't say never. I read a lot of old minutes from the town. I think I did read something about borrowing for a bridge in the 50s. We save so that when we have a slow time, we have savings. Using money from your savings is not the same as spending. Using money to invest in a new building is not the same as spending. We don't have a deficit spending problem.
Saving money to use for a specific purpose makes perfectly good sense. Absolutely. And the town has a record of doing exactly that. Using your savings for general operating expenses, your day-to-day expenses. If you continue to use your savings for day-to-day expenses, you're going to run out of money. Yes, the money's there, but it's going down. It continues to go down. The savings account is emptying. You can ask for the information. You should be able to get it. It's very clear. So you can say that it's not spending, but it is spending. It's clearly spending. It's spending out of this one versus that one, but it's spending.
Marianne alluded to building the building. That was done before 2008. We took $2 million and we built built a beautiful town hall. We are proposed to spend $7 million and there's no town hall.
I guess I'd like to read David Makar's statement. I am new to all this. I'm the only newcomer on our team. And it seems bizarre to me that in an educated population here with lots of accountants and even business schools, that this seems to have come up at the last minute and been so confusing that we could be sitting here with so much fire, so much smoke, and no substance. So what I want to do is read you what David Makar said, who is retiring. He said, we also invested by protecting your money and creating and endowing money into long-term funds. When I started on the town board, our A fund had a single account. Think of that as your checking account, with every asset you owned in one single place, a debit card. Through 5 years of budget negotiations, all passed bipartisan unanimously, with a Republican as well, we protected millions by establishing reserve accounts for various things. The money has not been wasted or mismanaged.